this is the Planning and Development Committee, and right after this is going to be the City Council meeting. We have over 40 people, about 45 people signed up here. Routinely, those who sign up for this generally speak at the council meeting. Those of us that are here are also going to be there. Does it make sense to speak here and then say the same thing to us at the next meeting? I'm not sure. So I'm going to ask you to think about speaking in both places or just speaking in one place or the other. When I call your name, it just doesn't make sense to speak at both places, I don't think. And I don't know that it makes sense if you're interested in hearing the committee or the council discuss the issue you're concerned about, because the less time we have to do that, the less you're going to hear how we feel about something. So I'll leave it up to you. Pardon me? Yeah, your opportunity to speak, if everybody speaks, is going to be less than a minute, 45 seconds. So, and the committee has just advised me that it's going to be 45 seconds. I don't even know what that is, 45 seconds. So I'm going to get out my phone. So, or you're going to tell me, right? You're going to tell me. All right. So the first item is approval of the regular minutes of September 11.
Move
May
approval.
I have a motion? Second. Okay. Any changes or corrections, additions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of September 11?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any opposition? Hearing none. All right. The first item on our agenda for consideration and action is housing opportunities for women, the Affordable Housing Fund application. So, let's see. It's P1. Such a variety here. I'm going to go down here. Let's see. Okay, so P2. All right. The first person on the list here that I have, people interested in, Carla Sutton. Oh, do you want to speak? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. The Alderman of the Ward, Alderman Peter Braithwaite.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey, members of the committee. And to the residents, I realize there are some that I have seen over the course of the meetings, and there are some folks that are new. My apologies for having my back towards you as I address the committee. Thank you. The reason that I wasn't able to sign up is because I was in a previous meeting. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible, as I know we have some presentations from staff. I just wanted to represent to the committee, and I'll do the same thing at council, some of the feelings and emotions that I've been able to hear from my residents as it relates to this project. For those that are new, that haven't had an opportunity to participate, we've had a number of community meetings to talk about this. You should know, just as a point of reference, that this project is not a city-funded project, and as well part of the application project was contingent upon funding. So with that, I realized that it created a little bit of confusion, but I'm sure through the presentations this evening you'll be able to hear some of the information that was shared with me. Neighbors are pretty consistent with their thought, and that is that the size and scale of this building does not fit into the character of the neighborhood. In addition to that, the concerns that our staff has met with is just how the impact of the building will affect the water, sewage, and infrastructure. And again, for a neighborhood that is very dense, there are a number of traffic concerns that I've heard voiced. You're going to hear from them, so I don't need to repeat everything, but I think it's important to note that in speaking to the neighbors in close proximity, it's very seldom that I hear this response, but there was no one that approached me that put in writing that they were in favor of this project. So I think I don't know if I can speak for everyone, I am a big proponent of affordable housing. I think this is a good project. I just don't think this is the right place for it in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, so I'm going to read like 4 names, so sort of queue up so we can move forward. Carla Sutton, Jacqueline Coker, Casey Christensen, Dolores Robinson. Hi, Carlos.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. I stand in opposition to items on the agenda P1, P2, and P3. Why is staff prioritizing the most effective ways of utilizing the funds from the Home Improvement Partnership Program and the Affordable Housing Program? I wish they would consider other options, like 4 to 8 townhomes instead of a 16-unit building. I'm also considering converting that land into the land trust for more permanent housing. On P2, I'm against spot zoning, and the restaurant and the proposed zoning change is an adverse effect to our community. It employs not any people from the community, and businesses traditionally in that location have been doomed to failure. And on P3, what would it profit the small housing people to be rezoned for business? What were the criteria of the staff for recommending this proposal
Carlos.
when it was opposed by the majority of the stakeholders? Staff needs to explain to us why this recommendation is being presented to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline Coker.
Good evening and thank you. I'm going to talk really fast, try to make this as brief as possible. The largest share of households in Evanston earn an annual income of $200,000 with property valued between $500,000 and $750,000. The moderate annual median income is $70,000. A 2017 Stanford University study shows affordable housing placed in moderate annual median income areas results in property values depreciating 2.5% on average versus no depreciation in property values for wealthy communities offering affordable housing. Additionally, in 2017-18, property taxes were raised approximately 16% on average, and it appears as though lower and upper class residents are phasing out the middle class. Also, how is the city planning to deal with the continual vetting of residents after initial application processes and maintain this property, and how does this benefit my family? Finally, in summary, I believe affordable housing is not being distributed fairly. A 16-unit building of 1 to 2 bedrooms is being placed in a location consisting solely of 2 flats and single-family homes and will cause major disruptions to our community.
Thank
Please
you.
do not approve this $550,000 city funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Casey Christensen.
Good evening, Alderwoman Rainey and the rest of the committee. My name is Casey Christensen. I am the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Evanston. And I'm here this evening in support of the Howe project. You know, we're all in agreement that affordable housing, that's not in dispute. But the proposed 16-building unit, it'll have a great impact on the families that it serves. It's also an appropriate use for the location and recommended by city staff. Housing opportunities for women who will manage the property have a proven track record. For these reasons, the League of Women Voters Evanston supports this project and encourages the council to approve the recommended funding. Thank you.
Thank you. After Dolores Robinson is Michael Cones, I think, Dennis Pierce, Rosemary Wilson Banks, Beverly, begins with an H. Go ahead.
Good evening, Alderman Rainey and the rest of the council. Again, my name is Dolores Robinson, and I'm here to support Howe. I'm actually a Howe client, and I definitely understand the concerns regarding, you know, the affordable housing being in this particular location. But I used to work in corporate America, and I took a chance on a career change. And when I left my former corporate job, I left with $100,000. Actually, it was six-figure income. But unfortunately, due to some deceptive practices with a business associate, I ended up losing opportunity for sustaining income. And as a result, I found myself homeless. And so one of the things that I've learned, just being from a perspective, having and even had my own home to where I ended up being homeless, I realized that, you know, I do understand the concerns about property value and all that, but I've learned that there's more value in people and just being able to help others. I never imagined myself being in a situation where I would need to have affordable housing, and it has really helped me. And so Howe, I think, is a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not in support of this housing. I've been living at my house for over 20 years, and now we're going to have this affordable housing. We don't have parking. We have the U-Haul dealer. We have the high school parking. The kids park there every day. I try to get in touch with the city. I talked to the alderman. That is not the right place. One of the things that they're talking about, the entry is coming through the alley. What is going to happen in the wintertime? Coming through the alley and then going out on Dempster. You need to think about that a lot. I'd like to have more to say, but 45 seconds is not good enough.
Good point.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Hatchett. I'm a current client of Hal. Hal has been so instrumental in my life when I fell on hard times. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to bring my son back home to live with me as my grandson when I needed to take him. So I'm here to support Hal. I wish you would really consider approving this project. It helps so many lives in so many ways that some of you may not understand. We are afraid of change, and I hear all the concerns about zonings and alleys, but we're talking about people and families and what this organization can do for families being brought back together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sorry, I fell behind here. Ray Friedman, Sarah, Sandy Martin, Angel Clark, Watkins, just one name, and Darlene Cannon. Hello.
Excuse me, I think you called my name a little earlier. I'm Dennis Pierce.
Yes, I did.
I'm a resident of Evanston for 46 years. I live about 4 blocks away, right off Dempster Street from this proposed project. I've been in my house for 44 years. There, on my block, there's an SRO and a multi-unit building that hasn't been a problem for 44 years that I've been there. I know Howe very well. I'm on their board of directors. I've been working in the area of housing and affordable housing with my family foundation in the city of Chicago for 10 years. I know Howe to be an excellent manager, and I think that if you look at the statistics, this particular census tract has about 8 units, 9 units of affordable housing. The average number of units, as the city knows, is 53 units per census tract. This area, this particular tract, is way underserved for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Friedman, I believe.
Good evening, City Council members. We thought that the government was formed for the people, by the people. Then why would its policies and ordinances not be followed? Therefore, working against the people it's supposed to protect. The City of Evanston came up with a 19-page ordinance for affordable housing. Went into effect January 2016. We have zoning ordinances, DAPR committee, HHHRC committee, and City Council to follow those rules that you took the time and trouble to write up. Don't those rules and ordinances apply to this 16-unit building? We've asked repeatedly about the 16-unit building not meeting the zoning ordinance or affordable housing ordinance and have not received any response. As a matter of fact, this property should be in the C class. It's commercial property.
Time.
One more sentence, please. Don't the residents of the Second Ward have any say in what goes on in their neighborhood or what our tax dollars should be spent on? Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Rosemary Wilson Banks, and I am an employee of Housing Opportunities for Women. I have heard the concerns, and I want you to know that I have considered them seriously. As a resident of Evanston, I chose to live in Evanston, not because Evanston housing is inexpensive, but because Evanston, for me, modeled a people who embraces diversity, people who care, people who reaches out to the disadvantaged. Evanstonians are all about community, about giving people a sense of belonging and identity. And in these times where we live, where values are becoming less important, I believe that this is an important opportunity for us to keep our history alive. Diversity in community is about people and less about places and things. As an employee of Housing Opportunities for Women, I am confident that HOW will have the ability to provide excellent supportive services,
Thank you.
thus teaching individuals how to be productive in our community,
Thank you.
therefore adding to us and not taking away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Person named Watkins. That's all I have here is Watkins. Okay. Darlene Cannon. Here she comes. Come on, folks. After that, Betty Bogg and Jenny Crosby.
Good evening. My name is Nedra Watkins Murphy, and I've been a resident for 61 years. My family came here in the 1930s, which was very, very difficult, from southern Alabama and Tennessee. And it's not that we're not against helping and being a diverse community. It's just that we have struggled so hard to get to where we are and to stay. My family has owned our home for already 2 or 3 generations. And I know one of your recipients, I was just talking to her, Miss Hatch, I know her very well, nice lady. But we just want to make sure that we're not going to have so much conflict and congestion in our community, and we're concerned with the character of those who are coming. So that's all I want to say. We're not against, but we just don't want conflict. We want to make sure that we have a safe community, that we're not going to be robbed, that crime rate's not going to rise. We're
Understood.
concerned about the character.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Betty Bogg. You're not Betty. Your name?
Darlene Cannon.
You're Darlene,
Okay.
right, okay.
So it looks like the proposed 16-unit building at 2215 Dempster has taken on a life of its own. It turns out that it was presented to the residents in April as affordable housing to help women and children. However, that was very misleading. It then became supportive housing geared towards Evanston residents, and now it's become affordable housing, in which it's going to service 4 counties and 4 suburbs, and probably won't help Evanston residents at all. The City of Evanston has a DAPR committee, as stated in Chapter 14, Section 4. The objective of the DAPR committee is to review proposed developments to ensure they are compatible with the adjacent developments by taking into account the relationship of new developments to its surroundings. This proposed 16-unit building is not compatible in any way to any adjacent development, which are single-family homes, 2 flats, and townhomes. Why then was this project even approved by the DAPR committee?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Betty Boggs.
Good evening, Alderman Ramey, members of the committee. My name is Betty Bogg. I'm the Executive Director of Connections for the Homeless. I'm speaking on behalf of both Connections and Joining Forces for Affordable Housing. I'm here to encourage you to approve a grant to Housing Opportunities for Women to support the proposed development at Dempster and Pittner. We consider investing in developments such as this one of the best possible uses of the money in the Affordable Housing Fund. Connections and Joining Forces looks forward to the city creating a plan for the fund that provides clear directions on how the fund will be spent. Our hope is that the plan will include additional developments like this one placed throughout the city in wards 2 and 5 and all the numbers from 1 through 9, and which do important things: provide a combination of housing and supportive services that will help residents achieve long-term stability and fully integrate in their communities. And another important thing that I will leave for another time.
Thank you. Jenny Crosby.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Crosby. I'm a homeowner in the 2nd Ward. I want to speak about this situation about how Evanston is supposed to be a model of diversity, and we have a history that we should raise about that. Evanston is the most racially segregated place I have ever lived. The history of Ward 5 and Ward 2 is of laws that told certain people from certain races where you could live. That is why parts of Ward 2 and parts of Ward 5 is less expensive. That's why you keep putting low-income housing disproportionately in those neighborhoods than in other neighborhoods. There was plenty of blight on Central Street a few years ago. You didn't put low-income housing there because it was too expensive. Fighting racism and doing the right thing to correct the wrongs of history is expensive.
Time.
I'd like to ask you to think about that.
Time. All right. Kathy Roberts. Kathy Roberts. No, are you Kathy Roberts? Okay. If you've signed up for this, for the Dempster Street project?
I thought she was on batch before me.
My able assistant here has, Alderman Holmes. All right, she might have missed you. Are you for this item? For Dempster? Pardon me? For 1 and 2? She missed the one. All right. Wait, just everybody just.
Yeah, I was down quite a bit on the list, so.
You're the last person on the list for this item. So just speak, okay?
Okay.
45 seconds.
Okay. I live at 1520 Pittner, been there for about 20 years or so in the area. I don't have any problem with how. It's not about how, it's about where that is the problem for me, okay? We have these are small buildings. The people paid a lot of money in their pockets to have this housing, and I feel it's going to mess up the neighborhood. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and let me tell you what can happen if you overpopulate a neighborhood. What I see with this one right on Dempster Street, I see that industrial area across the street better look out, because that's where people are going to be congregating, okay? I've seen this on the south side, and it's going to happen there. Somebody's going to have somewhere to congregate. They're going to move into the industrial area, and we have had problems with the industrial area that you know. This is what's going to happen. It's what's going to happen. Also consider this. We've done a good job of cleaning up the parks along the canal, and they're beautiful now. I mean, there were a couple of years ago you didn't want to go there. Evanston's done a wonderful job. For many people coming to Evanston, I-94 is
Time is up. Your time is up. You've exceeded your time. Thank you. I told, I mean, this is not a surprise. 45 seconds, you've gone over 50. All right. Alderman Holmes.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey and council members.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Did not
it's all
look
right.
like
I'm being
you said.
patient.
All right.
I'm being patient. Speaking to first P1, I want to say that I too, as you all know, I'm very much in favor of affordable housing, and I think that this is a wonderful, wonderful project. However, I do think that it is a wrong location. I had said that from the very beginning of the project and have made suggestions in terms of where else it might be able to go. I want to say also that I'm particularly opposed to the $550,000 of the Affordable Housing Fund being used for this project, only because if you cannot assure me that there are going to be Evanston residents using this money, then I don't think that's fair to the Evanston taxpayer. Then for my next few seconds on P2.
If you want to wait and get another 45 seconds for that,
Oh, okay.
because your
Well,
time is up on this one.
absolutely.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Has anybody else signed up on this that we cannot? Oh, Jose Torres and Gina Torres want to speak in Spanish on this. All right. All right. Do you want to speak on this? What's your name? And are you on the list? Speak. I can't hear you.
I said my name is Santi Martin.
Oh, Martin.
Santi Martin, yes. Hi, everybody.
I think I called your name. Yeah, I think I did.
I didn't.
Yeah. Go ahead.
First of all, I am a client and a representative of how exuberates opportunity, chance, and freedom. I don't believe that size is a problem right now. I believe that isolation and segregation is the issue, and I think that we are all militant with our the ways that we think, but I also think that we have grown to be different-minded. I don't think that hate is one of the things that we are taught. I think it's learned. I do believe that being a representative of how, I also have stigmas in front of me and things of that nature, and I don't think that it should be political. I think that it should be things of that nature that obviously, size, property, curriculum, and things of that nature shouldn't be a problem. If I am issued the opportunity to be a better person, then why shouldn't I be allowed? And that's that piece.
Thank you very much.
Mi nombre es José Torres. Estoy en contra porque cómo va a ser posible que en un lugar donde haya una casa familiar vayan a hacer una unidad para 16 apartamentos.
Hi, my name is Anit Sanchez, and I'm just going to translate what he said. He said, I'm against this project because I don't understand how it's going to be built in a family neighborhood, and it's going to be 16 units. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us your name so we can scratch you off the list.
Kofi Manfo.
All right, we got it.
Yes, I live in the neighborhood. Actually, I own a house on 1210 Hartree. I support housing, but I don't think this is the location for it. In the first place, we're having some difficulties there. Already, the city of Evanston had named that place West Industrial Area, that you find one section of the place is industrial. In a day, you find 8-wheelers coming in and out. You have Erie Clinic over there. Now residents, we can't even park. They've taken all the parking space. You have Ramini place, which is a rehab place for aesthetic children. I have walked some of them back into the building. If you put a place like that to mingle with people like this over there, I don't think there's safety over there. There's no safety there at all. If the city have any plans, I suggest they have a different place. That place will not be the adequate place.
Thank you for your comments. Omar Ansari. Is there somebody in the moment? There he is.
Good evening, council members. My name is Omar Ansari, and I'm the resident of 1403 Fowler Avenue. I'm not going to take much of your time, but I'm against, or I will oppose this project because parking for 16 units can never be enough and will bring more parking-related issues. With this affordable housing, as a homeowner of second ward, I will always be concerned about resale value in this area. Also, from my preliminary research, it seems that it is a vicious cycle of redlining affordable housing to only certain corners of Evanston. I hope you will understand my concerns and do your best to be mindful of community concerns. Thank you.
Rodney, are you signed up for P1? It's not clear. What?
P1, 2, and 3.
All right, well, speak to P1.
Just one?
Yes.
Oh, we'll go one. I'll quick.
Okay, all right. You're not signed up for P1. Do you want to speak to P1?
I do want to speak to this.
Of course.
Now
Come on.
Speak to the other issue.
All right.
Quick.
As a resident of the 7th Ward who over the years was involved in many zoning issues, I am against this project because of the scale and what it might do to people's homes that are there. We had to treat everybody equally in this town. In our ward, if this was coming, it would be opposed. It's not unacceptable to basically put this anywhere next to residential homes, whoever lives in those homes anywhere in this city. It needs to be scaled back to maybe 6 units or less and made residential if they want to do it. If not, reject it.
Anybody else want to speak? We're going to wind this up at 1:45. You want to speak to P1? Okay. Last person.
Hello, Alderman Rainey. My name is John Cheney Egan. I'm an Evanston resident. I do hope that your next project comes to my neighborhood. I've been in Evanston for most of my life. I've also been housing homeless people for most of my life. I've worked with HOW for a number of years. I think that they're a very good agency. But I also think that it is very important that Evanston start to subsidize housing and that you use the money that you have to do that. We have housed people, employed people, worshiped with people that have been homeless, and you don't understand how important this becomes to them, how stabilizing it is for them, how stabilizing it is for the neighborhood, and how it can actually increase property values rather than the opposite. I don't need to show you studies. You can actually just Google that, and you'll find that there's a number of studies that agree with that. I hope that you do support this project. Thank you very much.
All right, so we've heard citizen comment on this item, and we're now going to discuss it as a committee. First item, we're going to deal with this as a committee. So, Alderman Referral, would you like to take P1?
Are we going to have a presentation, though?
Yes, if you would introduce it, then we'll have a...
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I move adoption of the proposal for the Housing Opportunities for Women program and their application for funding from the Affordable Housing Fund.
Okay. Second? Okay.
Hello, Chair Rainey and members of the committee. My name is Savannah Clement. I'm the Housing Policy and Planning Analyst here with the city. I'll try to be brief, but I'll just give you a quick rundown of the presentation. So here is a picture of the outside of the proposed building, a rendering. It's a 3-story building that's composed of mostly brick with some glass. It's in an R5 zoning area, and so it's allowed by right at the size that it's at. Here's a couple more pictures of the outside of the building. You can see it has a 12-foot setback and some landscaping. It'll also have 16 parking spaces, and then under the parking spaces there'll be a underground water detention storage tank that will allow stormwater to be slowly released into the sewer. Currently, the stormwater runs off the property at about 1,000 gallons per minute. This would reduce that to 67 gallons per minute, and so it would actually improve flooding in the area. I also want to note that this has been reviewed by the DAPR committee twice, and that they have made changes to accommodate staff and resident concerns, such as putting an entrance on the Pittner side, and then they also changed the brick from utility brick to just the standard brick to make it more in line with the neighborhood. And here you can see the project scale with the surrounding buildings. If you can look here, you'll see there's a dotted line around the building. That is actually what's permitted by R5, but they have scaled it down to 3 stories instead of the 5 stories that it could be. Okay. So here's a little bit of the project details. As I mentioned, it's in an R5 zoning area. It's 16 units of permanent supportive housing. 12 of the units would be at 50% of area median income, and 4 would be at 30% of area median income. And as I mentioned, it'll have 16 parking spaces, so that's a 1-for-1 with the units. They'll also have case management services on site, and I did mention the stormwater detention tank that will be underground in the parking lot. So a little bit more of the project details. It is an accessible and sustainable building. It's compliant with our green building ordinance. All of the units are visitable and fully accessible, and there are sensory impaired units. I also wanted to note just a couple of the other amenities in the area. It has access to the Pace 250 bus route, which connects to the yellow and purple line. And then you can see the distances between the high school, the King Literary and Fine Arts School, Erie Evanston Skokie Health Center, and Valley Produce. And then this slide just provides a little bit more detail on the other amenities in the area. So I'll let you guys just take a look at that. Okay, so this is what the staff and the Housing, Homelessness, and Human Relations Commission have recommended. It's the $550,000 in gap financing, which is about 10% of the total development budget of $5,447,437,000. We would be funding it with $100,000 in the Home Fund and $450,000 from the Affordable Housing Fund. The total cost per unit is about $340,465, but the city's total investment would be about $34,375. We would also require a construction management plan and monthly meetings and updates with the neighbors on the project. There would be a local preference for Evanston residents for the site-based wait list, and we would like a disclosure of the soil testing and environmental documents. So here you guys saw these maps last Monday, but we just wanted to zoom in on the particular census tract in which this project would be located, which is Census Tract 8096. And here you can see the breakdown of the owner-occupied and the renter-occupied and how that compares with Evanston as a whole. And then this slide just shows what the actual breakdown of the affordability levels are for the census tract as far as rental goes. And then here again, another map that you guys have already seen, but this shows for Census Tract 8096, there are 6 units that are income restricted, and that's either income restricted by city funding or by some other source of funding that has restricted those units for a certain amount of time. So project lease up. For the 50% AMI units, that will be from the Regional Housing Initiative waitlist. So priority will be given for those. Once they've exhausted going through people and they can't find anybody to fill a unit, then they'll go to the project site-based waitlist, which will have an Evanston local preference. And that's the same thing for the 30% AMI units. Those will be coming from the state referral network. And then once they've exhausted, they've reached out to families and they can't get anyone to fill a unit, they'll then go to the site-based waitlist. And so how do people get on these lists? Staff and the social services agencies here in Evanston will conduct outreach to refer Evanston residents onto the wait list once they open. The Regional Housing Initiative, they have you have to live or work within 12 miles of where the project is. I think there's currently about 350 people on the wait list right now, but when the project is leasing up in 2 years, because it's estimated to be done in 2019, that will give us time to get people on the wait list when they open, and so that there are more Evanston residents on those lists for when the project is leasing up. The state referral network it's managed by the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and it gets referrals from social service network providers. And so we would work with the local nonprofits here in Evanston to tell them to refer their clients and people to this wait list as well. And then the site-based wait list, which will be managed by HOW, will have an Evanston preference, and we'll also do outreach and get the word out to get people on that wait list. And then this is just a repeat of the Staff and Housing Commission recommendations, and I will open it up for questions.
Okay, Alderman Simmons first, and then Alderman Fisk.
How long, excuse me, thank you. How long do the families generally stay in the Howe project or apartments?
I believe what we've heard is that it's about 5 years. Typically, the residents that have entered Howe projects in the past are women with young children, and so that gives them time to get their kids school age so that they can move on and try to gain full-time employment and find market rate housing.
Can you explain supportive housing versus affordable housing?
Sure. So supportive housing is they'll have the on-site case management. It also provides deep subsidies. So when you're doing affordable housing, you'll have a 60% AMI unit, for example, and the person or tenant moving in would have to pay that 60% rent. With this project, the tenants don't necessarily have to do that. There are subsidies tied with the units so they can pay what they can, and then the subsidy will provide the rest. And so that's basically the gist of how it works. But if you have specific questions, I can always defer more to who is here tonight.
Okay.
That's it for now.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you for the presentation. So these are affordable in perpetuity?
I believe that their contract with IDA is it 15 years or 30 years? 30 years. So it will be guaranteed affordable for 30 years.
Okay. Can you tell me what the likelihood is that the site-based wait list, that folks are on that wait list are actually going to get a unit?
Actually, I might defer to Maggie, who has a little bit more experience with that, with how the Regional Housing Initiative waitlist and State Referral Network waitlist work. So if you don't mind, I'll introduce Maggie Jarvis. She is with the Lightingale Group. She's the financial consultant for Howe on this project.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for considering our request. So it's a good question. This project has 16 units. 12 of those units have subsidy from the Regional Housing Initiative. Are you familiar with the Regional Housing Initiative? Okay, so the housing, the subsidy will come from the various agencies that contribute to the Regional Housing Initiative. The initial preference is for people who live or work within 12 miles of Evanston. So those are the referrals that we will get. Once we go through all of those referrals, the general rule is 10 referrals per unit. So we will have to go through 120 people if we can't find people. And that sounds like it's a lot of people, and it might be a lot of people, but these lists have been closed for many years in some cases. And so people could have moved on. They may not be eligible anymore. So I think there's a fairly good chance, probably not at initial lease-up, but once we start going through at turnover, that we will get to a site-based list.
Okay, I don't find that really reassuring. I have two Housing Authority of Cook County, very large buildings in my ward, one half a block from my house, and I love everyone who lives in there, but when they were initially presented to the neighbors, however many years ago, Sarah, 25 years ago? It was senior housing for Evanston residents. That's what was presented. And of course, it can't be that. I mean, that's not. So I understand the neighbors' concerns. I mean, they're asking questions because they're going to have new neighbors, and they want to know whether our money is actually serving Evanston residents. And for me, we've had an interesting discussion starting last week and obviously for the past few years about affordable housing in Evanston, and I'm happy that we're rethinking that and thinking about where we're going forward. But I do think there's a great concern in the community about, are we really serving folks that are in Evanston? Are we helping them stay in Evanston? Are our most vulnerable residents being adequately served? And I'm not sure I feel real comfortable with this project in that respect.
Thank you, Alderman Fisk. That is a concern. One thing I'll say is that this project will not be leasing up until 2019, very likely. And so what our experience has been with people on waiting lists is that, in 2 years from now, a lot of those people may have been housed somewhere else, or they're not on the wait list anymore. And so hopefully that will open up an opportunity to get more Evanston people on the list and get them housed in this project.
But the list is now closed. You said the list is closed.
Correct.
Yeah, so how are they going to get on the list?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if you want to jump in.
Alderman Nguyen?
Well, my questions were my questions were very similar to Alderman Fisk's. I think that this is a very, very worthy project, but my concern is that we're spending these very few. We have so few dollars for our affordable housing fund, and I really want them to go to benefit Evanstonians. And I think that this project is obviously a worthy project, but the possibility sounds remote that within the first 5 years that Evanstonians will live there. I mean, I'd like some real, not just speculation. I'd like something concrete that explains, another project that has had a waiting list, and 12 miles goes how far out? I mean, where is 12 miles?
Goes to Des Plaines.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Because 12 miles the other direction is in the lake. So this is all going to be, this is in Evanston that's within 12 miles. So I'm really concerned that we're spending $500,000 of our affordable housing fund, and we don't really have a guarantee for quite a long time that this will be Evanston. And explain to me how Evanstonians will ever get into this.
Alderman Nguyen, Sarah Flax, Housing and Grants Administrator. There is no perfect, we can never prove exactly, but one thing we also don't know is of the people who are on that wait list, there are likely some Evanstonians. And that is, when you look at the population in the North Shore suburbs, our population, we have the largest population of people who would be income eligible for this project. So there are going to be Evanston people on the wait list to some extent. We have with Emerson Square, we have project-based support in several of the units. Do we always get Evanston residents? Not necessarily, but I also want to caution that one of the things, we had a very strong Evanston preference for the scattered site housing in the NSP, in the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And I can tell you, I had any number of people come in to me and say, I was forced out because I couldn't afford Evanston, and I'm trying to get back. Can I be on the, can't there be a preference for people who have been forced out? One of the hardest things is to make a wait list that effectively takes care of all the needs, because that's something we hear all the time. I hear our social services agencies saying we can't place anybody in Evanston, we've put them in Arlington Heights. It is a challenge.
Yeah, I understand.
Alderman Revelle and then Alderman Simmons.
I think I was going to be addressing some of the points that Sarah just made. It does seem that there's no guarantee, of course, that these people on the wait list are Evanstonians. I think a good number of them are Evanstonians and have an Evanston connection, even if they they had to move to Skokie because they could no longer afford to live in Evanston. The 12-mile radius is going to take in Winnetka, Wilmette, et cetera, and I doubt very much that there are very many people from those communities who are on the wait list. So I really do think a good portion of these people are going to be Evanstonians, if not today, have been in the recent past.
Alderman Simmons.
So we've identified that our residents are moving because our families are moving because they cannot afford to live in Evanston. From what I understand, these units are as small as 500 square feet. Is that accurate? Yes. Right. And so with that said, I don't know that we're really meeting a need for the most urgent need for families to have affordable housing. In addition to that, the fact that we don't have any guarantee that Evanston residents will be able to get this housing. In addition to that, we haven't had any non-stakeholders or anyone come in support of this project that didn't have an interest in the organization. So it's tough to not respond to the concerns of the residents. So with that said, we just talked last week or two ago about being strategic and thoughtful and very serious and urgent about affordable housing. I'm uncomfortable spending any money on this project. We have not discussed our needs as a council, and we do not have a plan. We do not have a strategic plan, and to spend $500,000 is a substantial amount of money, and we can meet the needs that the residents are having right now. We can improve home ownership or expand home ownership. We can expand affordable housing beyond the 5th and the 2nd ward. That is possible, right? So we can move beyond being segregated and diverse. It's just not good enough. We cannot continue to celebrate our diversity if we continue to stay segregated. The cost of segregation is very expensive, and it is costing Black, minority, and low and moderate income residents a future in Evanston. So I will not be voting for the funding for this project. Thank you.
So, anybody else? Just wait. Alderman Wilson, anything? You don't have to, you're the only one who hasn't spoken.
I don't know what to say. I'm still disappointed by the strong divisions I see in the community, and it's hard for me. I understand both sides, though. I hear both sides, but I think one of the compelling things that I continue to hear are the stories about people and about human beings. And I talked last week somewhat extensively, I think it was last week, 2 weeks or whatever it was, about these very issues, the points about segregation and how we are a segregated community and we need to be doing things differently. We do need a plan. We'll be meeting again to talk about those plans. I've got some ideas. Others have ideas. I think they're great ideas. But we need to kind of break out of the status quo. Someone has come to us with funding of well over $1 million for a project. So we're putting in 10% of this significant amount that's going to house it's women with children. And I have kids that have gone through the school systems. I've got a younger child, and I've met these women with children. We have a lot of single parent families and households in this community. It's broader than just Evanston. People are pushed out. People get to come back. It's kind of fluid. I think people make connections with this community, not because of the buildings or the special one particular store downtown. I think people make connections with this community because of the people that are here. That's what really makes a long-lasting impression on people. And for that, I struggle with the money. I talked to some people today about the money issue. It is a lot, but again, it's gap funding, and it's a small proportion of the total value that's going to be put into the project. So it's on a balance. It's kind of a close call for me, but I am going to go ahead and vote to support the funding for this.
I want to say something about the confusion our community is faced with about affordable housing. And I've brought this up before. There's a project in my ward at Howard and Chicago Avenue where affordable housing was wanted by the developer. It was desired. And he wanted to put 5 units of affordable housing in his building. And the city said, well, we have some money coming down the pike, and we'd like to buy an additional 4 units of affordable housing in that building. And those 4 units of affordable housing would have cost $250,000 a unit. And this is a brand-new building, half a block to the Jewel, half a block to the L, Howard L. Nobody opposed it. Everybody wanted it. Perfect location. And the affordable housing people in the city of Evanston came to that meeting, and they fought it. They said, no, we don't want you to do this because you don't have a plan on how to spend that affordable housing money. And that developer just said, this is the strangest thing. I have never heard any affordable housing group oppose affordable housing before, and yet they're doing it here. This is very strange. So he said, hey, I don't care. That way I don't have to maintain 4 units of affordable housing for 20 years. That's okay with me. But I was willing to do it. I'm a nice guy. And that affordable housing was $250,000 a unit. This money that we're giving, the $550,000 that we're proposing, this building is costing, and I actually saw where it's $5,747,000 someplace. Let's go with the number the staff is giving, $5,447,437. That is $337,500 a unit. Our staff, our support, the $550,000 is 1.69 units in that building. 1.69 units. We were going to get 4 units for $1 million. So, I mean, that's, and we could have, that building's all been approved. That building could have had 4 more units. Now we've got nothing. So I'm going to go with Alderman Wilson, and I'm going to support this. But I think it's a darn shame that the affordable housing people don't know when to go with what's right. And I'm going to support it here, but I might change my mind when we get to the council. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye. All right. All those in favor of referring housing opportunity for women to the council, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Could I see a show of hands? All those in favor of forwarding it to the council? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? It's going to the council. We'll see what happens there. All right. Next item on our agenda. 99017, Alderman Simmons, could you move that, please?
99. This is for introduction. Staff recommends adoption, while Plan Commission recommends denial of Ordinance 99017, approving the zoning ordinance text amendment to rezone the property commonly known as 1829 Simpson Street from R3 2-family residential to B1 to a business district. This is for introduction.
How many people would like to speak on this? Could you just raise your hand? We're not going to go down this list because it's just too confusing. Not that your penmanship is bad. All right, Mr. Green, could you just line up if you want to speak to this? Let's do this simply. And would you all please respect the speakers as they respected you for the previous one? Mr. Green.
My name is Rodney Green, and Ms. Joan Hickman has given me her 45 seconds.
Because you're the former clerk.
Okay, I'm talking on SP2 and also.
Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, please. We've got a long council meeting ahead of us. Go ahead.
Madam Chair and Alderman, the committee. I'm here to speak on SP 2 and 3. During the August 30th meeting of the Joint Planning and Zoning Committee, both committees decided to deny the plan, respectively 5-0 and 5-1. At that meeting, the residents gave out reasons why they thought that they should not allow this. Some of the reasons were that it was highly disapproved, rezoning, special use, and variance requests. It was being too close to Twiggs Park, food smells attracting rodents and other wildlife, trash being generated by customers, disposal of garbage, grease, smoke from the chimney and affecting the community, problem with parking, and no one from the city staff, the 5th Ward alderman, or CATS talked to the immediate neighbors, which also includes former Mayor Lorraine H. Morton, about this project. During that also meeting, we found out that there were also letters that said that received from some of the people who were in support of the proposal. I would like to know where those letters are and who were the people who supported it and gave those letters to the alderman. Just to name a few more things, now the community now also would like to have the reasons why the staff is so persistent in pushing in favor of this project.
Okay.
We want a written minute and a half ain't gone yet, is it?
A minute and a half.
Are you kidding? Okay. So in that case, my last thing is that if this project shouldn't go, but they should do a better job of using it for an affordable housing for the handicapped, similar to the project, the house next to mine is 2020 Brown Avenue.
Right. Next. Come on.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Prince, and I would like to speak on the topic that you just spoke about for the affordable housing. I'd like to let you know that I have been looking for affordable housing since about 2011, 2012. I was on your Live Evanston list. I was presented a couple of apartments that were in excess of $1,400. I could not afford that. If you cannot afford that, they will kick you, or if you decide you won't take it, whether it's because you can't afford it or not, you're kicked off the list. Now, Evanston has and I've spoken on this before, a manageable amount of homeless people in the city of Evanston. I would like you guys to try to do something about that. I happen to be one of those homeless people. I am from the city of Chicago, but I grew up in Evanston. Went to Timber Ridge, Skiles, ETHS.
Your time is up, but I would like you to get a referral and somebody from our staff.
I've gotten 50,000 referrals and
Okay.
nothing.
All right, well, I'm sorry.
If you don't have children, if you're not elderly, if you're not a former vet, if you don't have mental
We
or
have
physical
somebody you should talk to.
incapabilities,
We have somebody you should talk to, okay? I
you're
promise you.
left to take care of yourself.
Director Thomas, you should talk to Director Thomas.
Okay. I talked to a lot of people in the city of Evanston, and no one, and I've spoken to her as well. Actually, I spoke with her during this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. All right, next.
Thank you for spending
45.
Yes.
You're speaking on what?
I'm speaking about the restaurant.
Okay.
I live at 2040 Brown in Evanston Hill, Alpharetta. There's 33 people that live there, and it'd be a blessing for us to go to this restaurant because it's a short distance, and so we have wheelchair with their wheelchairs, and it'll be easy for them to walk to wheelchair themselves into the restaurant. Plus, it'll be a chance for them to get out and mingle with the residents of the ward.
Yeah.
And then, because we have sometimes people that misjudge us. Okay. Now, I heard things about roaches. Well, there's a pest control people that could take care of those things. And I just want to say I've been here for 10 years, and I really love Evanston.
Your time's up. Thank you very much.
I know. I was just saying.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Next, Alderman Holmes.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. On item P2, I want to first make a statement about the way in which this came through DAPA, which it was bundled. So I'm definitely opposed to bundling items. Zoning should be first and then go on for special use. So I just want to make that, and I will make that statement again at the council. I would like to ask you, though, tonight to support the recommendation of the zoning board to deny the zoning for 1829 Simpson from R3 to B1, because you all very well know what happens when we start messing with zoning and changing it, what happens to areas. So this particular happens in the 5th and the 2nd wards. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else want to speak on this item? Ms. Esther?
Good evening. The zoning for that was changed way back when I was a resident over there on Darrell. We fought to get it changed. Then we had a business that came in. They wanted it to be changed to B1 so he could run his business. We fought, we came, we talked, and it wasn't changed. He had moved in, he didn't move out. It was reported for the city to vacate him, but finally he decided to leave. So we had it back. One of the proposed things that we wished to been there was an affordable housing. The Citizens Lighthouse Community Land Trust did put in a request back in 2009 to purchase the property and to build an affordable housing that would have been in existing for 99 years. We do have some of those units here in Evanston that is for affordable people. Those that, and most of the people that in the housing that the Highland Park Community Partners are residents of Evanston. They lived here in Evanston and they went to the units here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rizky?
I'll speak to P2 and P3, basically the same thing. Here again, the zoning board is basically telling you not to do something. This is next to a park. There's no reason, again, to do something like this next to a public park. I find it very disturbing, again, that we're destroying park, basically have no respect for our parks and really not the zoning. And this is a neighborhood, obviously. I don't live here. I live in the 7th Ward. I hope our alderman understands that we shouldn't be doing this there either. Anywhere really in the city, again, because we don't seem to respect our parks, and that's been a problem here for quite a long time. And really, zoning should be followed. The council, if the board gives a recommendation, the council should be following it. Why should citizens be on boards when the council doesn't really do what the boards are telling them? So I think that's very important because people lose trust in government. Of course, I don't know how many people trust the government here, but that's another matter. But seriously, this needs to be fixed and not done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Murray, welcome.
Thank you. Carolyn Murray. I want to address the P2 and P3. Well, I would strongly say that I've received several phone calls and concerns from ward residents about the zoning and the committee's denial of the proposed site and how we got this far. I could only reassure the residents to keep on continuing to speak out on it openly, because most of the residents that we've addressed and talked to were not even aware of it. The calls were made, the doors were knocked on, and they weren't aware of it. So I can honestly say that we have taxation, but we don't have the representation, because no one in the community who was aware of it even knew that the meetings were being held for the zoning. That was one issue. And I will speak to and address the issue of the ethics. I think that Alderman Rue Simmons should recuse herself from voting because there was a campaign sign in that very location. And if there was any disclosures of campaign funds, that should be an issue as well. Now, we've seen the location. We know that it's near a park. We've asked repeatedly for an outpost for EPD. We've asked for an extended library for the community. If we're talking about a park where children play, let's consider something for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Everyone. People that's looking at us. I won't be long. I'm against the opening of Mr. Katz's or any restaurant at this time. I'm going to make this real short. I believe what most of the people got up here and spoke about the rodents, about the different animals coming up from the canal bank, etc. I just believe the B1 zoning will open up a Pandora box. I believe in change. I believe in progress. But I can't go for that. I can't agree to it at this time, okay? Now, I just want to say this, is that real quick, I think the Round Table or one of the papers quoted me as saying, I only wanted a black restaurant owner in there. Okay, real fast. Is my minute up already? Is that, do you have a bunch of, anyway, here's what I'm saying. The lady at the 5th Ward meeting, she hit a core, okay, real quick, because she said that she's single family woman who happened to fall under the category of white. If she can do it, yes, I mean that, and I can explain it at another time. But she hurt me when she said, the way she said it, okay? Because I'm a single family woman. If I can do it, if I can get out and get a job, blah, blah, blah. And I say, lady, you fall under the category of white, okay? And I meant that. Anyone, whether it is the 7th Ward, the 8th Ward, or the 9th Ward, if you don't care about your ward, your community, and want something in there that you are a part of, we don't have zippy poo that I'm aware of. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman 5th Ward. Correct me, Dolores, if I'm wrong. What do we have? I'd be a fool if I don't fight for what's in my community and want it there, okay? I don't have nothing against nobody. I love diversity, but I like fair diversity, okay? Thank you.
All right. I think we're finished with citizen comment on this item. All right. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to introduce. We're open for discussion. Alderman Simmons.
Did the owners want to say anything?
What?
Did the owners want to say anything?
Oh.
Or can they?
Sure, yeah. I didn't know.
Would you like to speak?
You want to speak?
Yeah, I'd like my friend to introduce the project.
Is that okay if...
His name is Jim McKee.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jim McKee, and my friends Rita and Arcady Katz asked me to come and introduce the project and say a few words about it. I know we're limited by time. I'm trying to cut my comments down a little, but I'll just say I'm a Evanston resident for 10 years, but I've also owned and managed residential apartment properties in Evanston since 1993, and I'm good friends with Arcady and Rita, and Arcady and I were business partners for 10 years. And I can tell you that he's a very successful developer who has taken on some projects in Evanston, vacant, distressed properties, and turned them into great projects on the tax rolls. And there's been no displacement of residents and adding significant value to the city's tax base. The property here at issue tonight contains a vacant commercial structure that was built in the 1920s, and was originally B1 zoning. It's only been used for commercial purposes, but it's been empty for 10 years. And so yes, he's asking for the zoning change to take it back to B1 because that's the use of that property. And he has a good plan in mind for a restaurant, which I can tell you that They are great cooks. Arkady and Rita are from Kiev, Ukraine. They emigrated here in 1989, and they make delicious food. They have a concept for unique, exciting, affordable Eastern European food, which will be, I'm confident will appeal to lots of people in the neighborhood and in Evanston. And I think they should be given a chance to open this restaurant. They're going to invest their own money. They're not asking for any help from the city. They're going to invest their own money into this property to build out a nice restaurant in a location which is a commercial building, which has been dilapidated and empty for 10 years. And they're going to put it on the tax rolls, and it's going to produce sales tax revenue, restaurant tax revenue. It's going to provide jobs potentially for people in the neighborhood, I understand. It's going to provide a place for people in the neighborhood to get a meal, and I think it's really underserved. And I love the 5th Ward. I would love to go there and get some food. I live in the 3rd Ward, but why not have people come to Simpson Avenue and go to a nice restaurant in a nice location by Twiggs Park? I think it's a great thing for Evanston. I think it's great for the 5th Ward. I'm a big fan of the 5th Ward. I know a lot about the history, even though I don't live there. I know a lot of people in the 5th Ward, and I'm a big supporter of the effort to preserve the old Foster School, the family focus. I personally, this is not him, but this is personally, I offer my services on that effort because I'd love to see that stay open as a social service, community center in the neighborhood. Anyway, that's my 2 cents that I need to throw out there in support of the project.
Thank you.
Alderman Simmons.
Thank you. So one thing that happens when you change zoning is you have a property that's disinvested and underutilized for over 10 years. And that's the case for this property. Its last viable use was commercial use. We all know it was a snackery when I came up, went there and got my snacks. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay.
And
it's our turn now.
thank you, Alderman Rainey. Continuing on, it was a beauty shop. I went there and got my hair done. And somewhere it was decided that the zoning would be changed to residential, and the only thing that accomplished was stopping development. So we have a building that has been underutilized in our ward in an area where we say we want development. We want amenities that are consistent with the rest of Evanston. That would be a great option, to have a restaurant. Some of the reasons against Mr. Katz opening his restaurant are really embarrassing. He's not going to have fried chicken and red beans and rice. He's not a black man. No, he's not. He's an Eastern European immigrant that has a viable business model, is not requiring any funding, has experience in the restaurant, and has experience in ground-up construction here in Evanston. He's going to hire locally. He has not requested a liquor license. He responded to my expectations of what we want to see in the Fifth Ward. We don't want a mediocre restaurant. We want an experience. We want to enjoy all the exciting things that are happening, like on Howard and downtown Evanston. And I challenged him. I said, this is not good enough. Will you please improve the design? He did so at his own expense. He had his architect improve the design to include the maximum windows on the west elevation overlooking the park. So this is not taking away from the park. This is making an experience to include the park. So any comment about I did not reach out and do any outreach, I had a ward meeting and I announced at that meeting that we would have Mr. Katz come and present to the ward. He came, he presented, he shared his plans, his architectural drawings, he answered questions. He was patient, and he let some of the residents verbally abuse him, and he answered all the questions graciously, and he responded. and I appreciate that. He is not asking for any money. He is responding to the concerns about trash and debris. He has a plan, a thoughtful plan, and we manage that. As a city council, we regulate that. And as a commercial use, and staff could maybe speak to this, it's even further regulated on how the waste will be removed. In terms of the critters and the mountain lions I even heard about, if we have mountain lions, save the children, right? Forget the restaurant. I sent an email to our staff to, I don't remember his name, the deals with the rats? Ike, thank you. To ask if we have a rat problem in the area. I haven't seen any rats. And I got a response, we don't have a rat problem. I also sent an email to Sergeant Rose, the animal warden, to ask, do we have any mountain lions or do we have any other extreme rodent problem in the neighborhood? And he said, we do not. We don't have that. So I'm hoping that we would consider changing the zoning to what has been in the past a viable use to commercial. We tried it the other way. We tried to have it residential. Previous councils denied purchasing the property from what I understand. I understand that it came before council to purchase it and it didn't happen. I understand that there were other organizations and institutions rather in town that were presented with the opportunity to purchase and they didn't have any interest. And so it stayed vacant. Here is an opportunity to improve the walkability, improve the amenities, enhance our neighborhood with a new food item. We have other restaurants that are great. And even speaking to one of the restaurants on the street, she supports the restaurant as well. And in response to the waste and the rodents, we have several food businesses on that block and in that area. They're not retail. Only Jennifer's Edibles is retail, where you can get the best Southern food anywhere in the ward. The other businesses are caterers, and they are possibly a culinary commercial kitchen. So there's food businesses that are in the ward now, and we're managing the waste. We haven't been overtaken by any of the rodents. So I fully support Mr. Katz's plan and anyone responding to wanting to keep our neighborhood in its diversity. My full-time work is in supporting minority business development. So this isn't about that. I support minority business development. My hope was that we never transferred from a minority business development, but that has happened. So let's work towards building capacity in our businesses, identifying opportunities for minority businesses, and when the next opportunity comes along to purchase a property, we can do that then. But right now, Mr. Katz owns the building, and I think it's a viable plan that I support.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, and then Alderman Fisk.
Thank you. I believe Alderman Holmes had done some work in the past to try to do something with the project, or with the property rather. And I think that there probably, over this very, very long period of time, were some missed opportunities, but unfortunately the opportunities were missed a while ago, and it's been vacant for a very long time. So it is just for introduction tonight, but I am interested in looking at this, and it seems like an interesting opportunity to me. So I hear what some of the residents are saying as far as some of the concerns are. Although as far as the critters and the animals, if you get up early enough and go for your bike ride or your run, you'll see that those critters are not limited to any neighborhood in Evanston. They're pretty much everywhere. You just have to know what time they want to go out and get in your garbage can. But Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how this looks, and I hope that we can move it forward.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. I'm in support of this. I actually really like the building, and I enjoy my trips down the street, and I always wish that there was something going on in there, and every time I see a business fail, I feel badly, because I think this building offers a real opportunity, and I want to welcome you and thank you for your interest in opening a restaurant. My only concern is with delivery, and I hope you don't decide to go and start deliveries. That really does cause problems with, cars coming and taking food in and out. That can be really disruptive to the neighborhood, but we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Thank you. Okay, no. All set? All right, anything else, Alderman Simmons?
Yes, so there several emails have come in today to all of City Council in support of it. There have been at least a dozen comments on the local press that has covered it in support of it, and there have been dozens of, possibly as many as 100 comments in support of this project by Evanston residents on social media and other calls and texts in support of residents that were unable to come out.
I personally got several emails from people. Anyway, okay, so having a motion and a second and discussion, all those in favor of referring P2 to the council for introduction, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. All right. P3, I'll introduce this, Ordinance 100-017, granting a special use permit and major variation for a Type 2 restaurant at 1829 Simpson Street in the B1 Business District. I move for introduction. Okay. This is really partner motion. Shall we have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving introduction, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right. Next, Alderman Wilson, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, P4 is Ordinance 80. I'm sorry. Where's the reading glasses?
Don't
on my
get
head.
this wrong.
97017, granting a special use permit for a Type 2 restaurant located at 633 Howard Street in the B3 Business District, also known as Cafe Coralie. And the Zoning Board of Appeals and City staff have recommended adoption of the ordinance granting the special use approval for the Type 2 restaurant. Alderman Rainey is also recommending and requesting suspension of the rules for introduction and action at this meeting. I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? This seems to be on our agenda for months. Yes. All right. All those in favor of recommending and suspending rules and action, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. All right. P5, Alderman Nguyen.
Yes, this is Ordinance 93017, amending various sections of Title IV, Chapter 14, Design and Project Review. The staff recommends adoption of this ordinance, which amends the design and project review portion of the city code related to voting and advisory members and the appeals process. I move introduction.
Second. Any discussion? No. Okay. Alderman Simmons.
No, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your light must have been on from
Okay.
before. Okay. No comments? All right. All those in favor of moving introduction, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right.
You want me to cover that one?
Pardon me?
The discussion item, you want me to talk about?
Would you like to just, Alderman Fisk, the discussion item?
Okay. PD1 is 1233 to 1235 Hartree. It's proposed alternative school operated by Evanston Township High School. Staff requests direction from the Planning and Development Committee, which could come in the form of a referral to the Plan Commission if a map or text amendment is recommended, or a recommendation for no further action. ETHS submitted applications for a zoning analysis for a determination of use and special use permit to operate an alternative school for students with behavioral behavioral and emotional needs at 1233 to 35 Hartree Avenue. It's for discussion.
I know Alderman Wilson, did you want to speak to this? I know Alderman Braithwaite does,
Alderman Braithwaite, why don't you go ahead?
because Alderman Rainey does also.
I'm sure you do. I'll be brief with my comments again, committee, Alderman Braithwaite, Second Ward. And I've shared this conversation with just a few of you, not all of you. Evanston Township is looking to create an alternative school at the current building on Dempster and Hartree. And just to remind you of some of the uses that are currently there that, based on the way the code is written right now, there's a swim school, there's a child daycare, there's Rimland Services, there's Have Dreams that provide services to adults with special needs. What else? I think those are the major uses. So my reason for at least opening up the conversation is I definitely see it as a benefit for some of our students, particularly our students of color. Right now, as it exists, a majority of those kids actually have to go outside of our community to be educated. And what's lost in that is the extra cost to taxpayers in terms of the cost. And I know we have people here from the high school, so I may bring you up just because eventually there'll be additional questions to give those specifics. But I think it's somewhere, is it $50,000 is what we spend to send our kids outside of school? As well, one of the things that I think is important to the high school experience is that being in close proximity, some of the benefits that I see the kids being able to experience is amenities of the high school, and then the most important thing that really just tugged at my heart was the fact that those same kids who have been denied those opportunities will actually have an opportunity to participate in after-school sports. And I think for those of you that have kids at the high school, some of your best memories, character traits, et cetera, are built not only in the classroom, but being able to participate in sports. So those are just a couple of the highlights. The other thing that I see as difference, because I know in the memo it talks about the old lawsuit with the former Jewish school, and again, the folks behind me will speak to it in detail, but they are looking to rent, not purchase the property. They will be responsible for paying taxes on the property, and I think those are the main things that I just wanted to touch. So I thank you very much for your consideration this evening.
Alderman Wilson, and then Alderman Fisk.
Okay. It's late, and I just think I was inclined just to make the referral so they can get it going. So I'd like to make the referral to the Plan Commission so they can start on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will fight this
I don't need any
every
convincing.
step of the way.
Oh.
I understand right now. It's really bad policy. And I am shocked at the high school. 18 districts in this city that you can put this school in. 18. You can put it on my block. I'll fight for it on my block. You cannot put it in an I-2 district. One of the most prolific tax districts in the city of Evanston, you're going to put it there. I don't care if you pay taxes. It violates the lawsuit. It just flies in the face of reason, and of all people, that you would bring it to us. Anyway, I'm shocked. It's been passed. It's been referred. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just cannot believe it.
No, that's okay. I agree with referring it to the Plan Commission, but I also want to refer it to the Law Department.
Sure. Okay. It's been referred.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Can a lawsuit, I don't have any background, if you
it's
could send it to me, so.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
It's been referred.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 3 years long, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yes, we can move to.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
5-minute break, at least.